I am Dr. Rashid Ahmed from the Department of Physics of Kohat University of Science and Technology. In the subject of Quantum Mechanics 1 with the course code PHY212, we are at the lecture number 15 and the topic is the Schrodinger equation. In quantum mechanics, a state of a system is represented by a wave function, which is a function of position and time both. So, if the system is moving or its state is changing with time, then the dynamics of this system is governed by the equation developed by Schrodinger, now known as the Schrodinger equation. In today's lecture, we are going to learn the Schrodinger equation and how to solve it. So, we start with the time dependent Schrodinger equation, which is the most general case. We will see that we can separate the time dependence from the position and then can solve both equations separately. So, if we have a state function or the wave function for a system which is developing in time, which means that when particle or the system is moving or changing its state with time, then this dynamics is governed by this equation. In this equation, you can see on the left side and right side we have a wave function which is a function of position in time, and then on the left side we have a time derivative or energy operator, and on the right side we have the Hamiltonian. Now, this Hamiltonian, which you can see on the right side, can be made to depend on only on position, that is only on r, and time dependence can be taken into the into the wave function. Once we assume that, then it is possible to separate the time dependence in the Schrodinger equation and have time independent Schrodinger equation, which is an easy to solve. This is done by the technique separation of variables. In separation of variables, what we do, that we assume that the solution of the following form, where we say that this wave function or a state function can be divided into two parts, that is phi, which is only dependent on position, and t, which is only dependent on time, but the product of both of them gives us is equal to the wave function. And now, when we insert this wave function back into the time dependent Schrodinger equation, then Schrodinger equation after some rearrangement gets this form. So, what we have done, that we have inserted this equation back into Schrodinger equation and then taken this time dependence on the one side and space dependence on the other side. So, after simple arithmetics, you can do this by yourself. Here you can see that there is a subscript with the t part, and this represents the time derivative of this t. So, now this equation can only be true if both left hand side and right hand side of these equations, these two sides, equal to a same constant. Let us say that this is some constant. At the moment we do not know what this constant would be, but just for the mathematical sake, we say that this left hand side is equal to some constant, let us say call it E, and also the right hand side is equal to this same constant. When we put these constants, constant equation, for example, over here you can see this right side was put equal to the constant, then we get the equation which is called the time independent Schrodinger equation. So, this h phi is equal to E phi, and from this equation then we see that this E must be an energy, because H is a Hamiltonian and Hamiltonian is an operator. When acts on some kind of function, it gives us the energy eigenvalues. So, before making these two equations equal to same constant, we did not know anything about the constant, but now from this equation, after separating into a dependent, time independent parts, and from this time independent part, we know now that this H has eigenvalues E. So, this constant must be an energy. So, both sides are equal to the same constant. So, we must also have the second part equal to the same constant, and when we do the rearrangement to the second part, we can write it into this form. So, this del by del t you remember, and then this is coming from equating this equation to the same constant E. So, now we know that this E is energy from the time independent part of the Schrodinger equation. Now this equation is in a very good form, and we can guess, or we can even solve this for t part, and from here we know that this t is actually an oscillatory part. So it means that whenever we will solve the Schrodinger equation, the time independent Schrodinger equation, and we will get some solution to this solution, there will be accompanied an oscillatory solution, and this oscillatory solution is, as I said, is can be of this form. So if you now put this t back into the second equation on the last slide here, in this you will see that this left side will also give you 0, because right side is 0. So that's why this t, this exponential or this waveform solves the second part of the equation. So we got two equations. One is giving us the eigenvalues of the energy, and the second is giving us the oscillation part. So whenever we have solution for the time independent equation in the form of continuum of eigenvalues and eigen functions, there will be associated this oscillatory solution to it. So if we go back to the first part, that is time independent Schrodinger equation, we find that there is a discrete set of eigenfunctions. Suppose one solves the time independent Schrodinger equation, and what we get that this H Hamiltonian is acting on the on phi n, where this phi n means that there is not only one wave function, but there is a whole set of the wave functions. Probably it representing n is equal to 1 is representing one state, n is equal to 2 representing another state, and so on. And this whole collection, this set is the set of the solutions, and we say that this is the continuum, or this is the discrete set of eigen functions. And there must also be corresponding eigen energies or eigen values E n. So what we get is the complete set of solutions that is discrete in nature, and associated with each of these solutions there must be a corresponding time dependent or oscillatory solutions. And you can see this psi is actually representing this oscillatory part, where we now see that corresponding to phi n we have these oscillatory part over here, and we must have this E n over here. So by this way we have the complete solution, that first we construct the discrete set of eigen values and eigen functions, and then we have this complete solution psi by also having the oscillatory part over here. So now let's do in a simple example, that is free particle example, that is one dimensional free particle case. In this case we say that the potential is 0, so there are no forces acting on the particle, and particle is free to move. So if we solve the time independent part, so we will get the continuum of eigen functions and eigen values. These are the eigen functions, and this is there are no potential involved, and this k is the wave vector and x is the position, because it is time independent. So you don't see any time involved over here, and correspondingly we will get the eigen values energies which are of this form. And then for each such time dependent solution, there is a solution to the time dependent Schrodinger equation which is of this form, and you can see this is a plane wave. And now these two solutions, that is time independent, the continuum set of eigen values and eigen energies, and this oscillations associated with them, gives us the complete solution to the Schrodinger equation. Another important thing about the Schrodinger equation is that the wave packet nature of any system, or consider of a particle, if the system is a single particle like electron, then we always say that it is of the nature of wave packet. To see this, that how we can say that this any particle, for example, consider then there is an electron. So this electron is actually a system of particle, and corresponding wave function is here, which is depending on position and time. And we say that this is actually is a type of packet that is having many wave functions in it. So how we can see that this is a packet and not just a point particle? For this we would like to calculate the speed of the wave. To calculate the speed of the wave, we use this formula v is equal to omega by k, where omega is the angular frequency and k is the wave vector. So what you can do is to multiply and divide by h bar. When you do this, then we know that h bar omega is equal to ek, and ek and p is equal to h bar k. This downstairs over here we can put is equal to p, and then we also know that the ek is equal to h bar square k square by 2m, but if you put h bar k square is equal to p, so this will be p square by 2m. So you can see the numerator and denominator of h bar omega and h bar k changing to this, and if you cancel the one of the p, so p is equal to 2 by m. But this p is equal to 2 by m, as we know that, is the classical velocity. Since this is a momentum, so from momentum one mass goes away, so you can see that this is the classical velocity divided by 2. So what we found that if we treat it as a particle, as a point particle, then there is a discrepancy where we see that the velocity is equal to the half of the classical velocity, which is not possible. In order to correct this, we say that in time there is a localized particle is kind of localized wave function, and then you can see there are many waves involved. It's kind of picture of a particle where you see different oscillations involved over here. So when we go to this interpretation, then the velocity which we calculated over here shall not be like this, but it shall be the derivative of omega with respect to k. This type of velocity is called group velocity. So we cannot just simply calculate the velocity like a single particle, but we will calculate the velocity of all the waves, and their combined velocity is, so to say, is called group velocity, and the formula for the group velocity is this del omega by del k. Similar calculations you can repeat, that is multiplying and dividing by h bar, and all values you put over here, and after some cancellation you see that the group velocity is equal to classical velocity. So the velocity of the system or this particle we observe is equal to the group velocity rather than the point particle. So that's why we say that the particle is behaving like a wave packet. So in today's lecture we have seen, if to summarize, that in quantum mechanics any particle is represented, or any system is represented by a wave function, which is a function of position and time, and it is an oscillatory function or a periodic function in order to represent the wave nature of a particle. And then when we put this into the equation, there must be some kind of equation which governs the dynamics of this wave packet, and this is the Schrodinger equation. But to solve it, we separate it into two parts, that is time independent and time dependent. In time independent, we get the set of the discrete functions, we call them eigenfunctions and eigenvalues, and for the time dependent part we get the oscillations. So when we solve them together, we have a complete solution. And at the end, we have also seen from this complete solution, if we calculate the velocity like a point particle, we get it not equal to classical velocity, but it is divided by 2. In order to correct this, we say that there is actually the packet of the waves, and we calculate the group velocity, and when we calculate the group velocity we get the right form of the classical velocity. So we learned that there is a equation called Schrodinger equation, which governs the dynamics of any quantum mechanical system, and this quantum mechanical system shall be represented as the wave packet. Thank you very much.